He built empires. He controlled industries. A billionaire with everything except connection. His world was numbers, deals, and silence. But one night, at a glittering charity gala filled with tuxedos and champagne, something shattered that silence. A young black waitress, invisible to the room, did something no one else dared. She handed the spotlight to his disabled son. Not with words, just a single dance step, and a moment of unimaginable courage. What followed wasn't just heartwarming, it was world-changing. Because sometimes the people we overlook the most are the ones who open our eyes. The Whitmores were untouchable. At the top of that dynasty was Charles Whitmore, a titan in the financial world, billionaire, widower, and a man frozen in his own grief. Ever since losing his wife, Charles had become a ghost in his son's life. 8-year-old Jamie was born with a neurological disorder that affected his motor skills. He used leg braces, struggled with coordination, and rarely smiled. He was sweet, quiet, too quiet, especially when around his father, who spoke more with assistance than with his own child. Every year, the Whitmore Foundation held a lavish charity gala in the grand ballroom of an elite country club. Celebrities, CEOs, and influencers mingled beneath chandeliers. The night was always the same, formal, polished, cold. Working that night was Danielle, a black woman in her late 20s, intelligent, composed, and juggling 3 jobs to keep her family afloat. She had served hundreds of men like Charles. To them, she was just a uniform. But when her eyes landed on Jamie, sitting alone at a table, legs stiff in his braces, watching the other children spin and twirl on the dance floor, she saw something no one else did. She saw a child dying to feel normal, and in that moment, she made a choice, one that would risk her job and shake the walls of that ballroom. The music pulsed through the hall. Laughter bounced between champagne flutes. And Jamie? He sat with his hands folded, eyes glued to the dance floor. No one had asked him to dance. No one had even spoken to him. Charles was across the room, locked in conversation with a tech mogul, unaware, or maybe choosing not to see his son's loneliness. Danielle moved through the crowd, topping off glasses, exchanging polite nods, and was ignored as always. But every few steps, her gaze returned to Jamie. The boy's yearning was unmistakable. And then, she did something unthinkable. She set down her tray. Stepping gently toward Jamie, she knelt beside him. No grand gestures, just a smile, a whisper. She extended her hand, not as a waitress, not as a stranger, but as someone who saw him. Jamie looked at her, eyes wide. He hesitated. Then slowly, shakily, he took her hand. A few heads turned, a few whispers began. Danielle led him onto the dance floor. Carefully, gently, she moved slowly, matching his rhythm, letting him lead. His first step was awkward, the second, stronger. Then a laugh, a real, unguarded laugh escaped his lips. The room had gone quiet. People stared. A billionaire's son dancing with a black waitress with leg braces? Was this a performance? A stunt? But Danielle wasn't performing. She was empowering. And Jamie? For the first time in his life, he was being celebrated. Then Charles noticed. At first, confusion clouded his face. Then anger. What was happening? Was this pity? A spectacle? But as he watched, really watched, something changed. Jamie was smiling. Smiling. Charles hadn't seen that in years. And it wasn't him who caused it. It was her. Charles stepped onto the dance floor. The crowd parted. Eyes followed him. Danielle saw him coming and instinctively prepared to apologize, expecting reprimand, maybe worse. But Charles didn't speak. He watched his son attempt a spin, awkward but determined, and fall into Danielle's arms laughing. And then, for the first time in his adult life, Charles Whitmore clapped. 1, 2, then more. The applause spread slowly, awkwardly at first, then thundered through the ballroom. It wasn't about money anymore, or appearances. It was about a moment that cracked something open inside him. He walked up to Danielle, looked her in the eye, and simply said, "Thank you." Not as a boss, not as a billionaire, as a father. After that night, everything changed. Charles began attending therapy with Jamie. He shortened his work weeks. He started reading bedtime stories, walking with him, dancing with him. Danielle? She was offered a role as Jamie's part-time caretaker and later director of an inclusion initiative Charles funded across his entire business empire. She accepted, but not out of gratitude. She did it because she believed every child there like Jamie deserved to be seen. That one moment, a dance step, reshaped an empire, not just because of what Jamie did, but because of who dared to believe in him. Danielle wasn't just a waitress that night. She was a mirror, showing the powerful their own blind spots. She was the courage that disrupted comfort, the kindness that defied status. And Jamie, he danced again and again and again. So the next time you're in a room full of people ignoring someone, ask yourself, who in this room is truly invisible? And what would happen if, just once, you looked their way?